Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it. I'll go ahead and recognize myself for questioning for 5 minutes. I want to ask Mr. Riccobono, I'm so pleased again that you're here today and members of the National Federation of the Blind. Again, so many of our friends who advocate for people living with disabilities are here in the audience. I really appreciate you making the effort to be here today. It makes a big difference. I also want to thank you for your support of the amendment I offered last Congress on the infrastructure bill regarding protections from discrimination for the disability community. I'm still disappointed that the majority at the time didn't allow it to be voted on as part of that package that was enacted without our input. Can you briefly share with us your experience with self-driving vehicles and maybe elaborate on how much of an impact this will have for people living with disabilities, and elaborate again on what opportunities this could bring if this technology is developed specifically with this community in mind. Is this a major priority for the National Federation of the Blind?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, great question. Well, obviously, especially for blind people, but many people with disabilities, blind people are excluded from the driving class. You know, what I like to say is that 100% of accidents are caused by sighted drivers. I think I said that. Still gets a laugh. I think I said it last time I testified. But the reality is that transportation is a significant barrier. Easy transportation, access to affordable transportation, but also, as I alluded to, especially today in the rideshare environment, but it's always been true with taxi drivers as well, there is a level of discrimination against people with disabilities, especially people, blind people who use service animals. So there's a tremendous opportunity here. But as I've noted, I've had the opportunity to ride in many autonomous vehicles, being involved in these discussions over the last decade, and I had a similar experience, as already has been shared, related to Cruise in San Francisco. And I will say, you know, I was in a vehicle that was not 100% successful. The vehicle actually had an issue at one point, and I was really kind of excited not to have a perfect experience, because it illuminated how much thought has been put into both the safety and help teams that are behind this technology. As a blind person, not being able to know, you know, look out the windshield and see what's happening outside the car in that moment. And I will just say we were at a red light, and when the light turned green, the car failed to move. But the help team engaged very quickly, was very communicative about what was going on. And I was impressed by the user experience that I will say is much different than cars that I've been in with real human drivers. So for people with disabilities, but really I think all people, there's a tremendous opportunity here to not only innovate by incorporating new ideas about accessibility, but to increase the safety and eliminate discrimination that happens in rideshare, where we have humans that are continuing to discriminate against people with disabilities or people of color. I think the technology and the thoughtful approach that the industry, but also Congress, is taking in these conversations give me a lot of hope for the safety and implementation of this technology.
Well, thank you very much. And I know in my area, in the Tampa Bay area, most areas do not have a strong public transportation system. Or we are not fortunate enough to have a metro, what have you. So I think it's very appropriate that we have this discussion today. And the work you're doing, sir, to ensure people living with disabilities is widely supported, including by the Consortium for Constituents with Disabilities, who sent a letter to this committee regarding the need to move AV legislation as soon as possible. I'd like to submit that for the record without objection, so ordered. I know I don't have a lot of time. Well, why don't why don't I go ahead and yield back and recognize the ranking member. I'll submit the rest of the questions for the record. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman.